Hello YouTube, Tim here, and I had a request from Joel on the PVC archery and crafting community. I had described the way that I make my handles, my grips for my Turkish bows. Let me show you one of them right now. It's built up, but the way I get the shape is I find it simple, durable, and inexpensive. It's a nice combination. There are perhaps better ways of doing it, but my way works, and it seems to be adequate at the very least. Not bad. So that's about it. That's the size of it, and that's what we're looking for. So on the forum, I described what I do, but I hadn't shown anybody. I don't think I've actually done a build along of the grip. So here I have just a bow. Come to think of it, I'll probably turn it into a Turkish-style bow. I'll flatten the siyas and just make it a very short, compact, youth-style bow. The whole idea behind this, and it is a simple idea, is we're going to take a strip of Schedule 40 and we're going to put it on top. And then we're going to take a smaller strip and put it on top of that. We're going to then smooth out any of the corners and edges with glue to make a nice little bundle for you to hold on to. So this can just go to the side. That's it. We're done with that for the moment. Right now, let's just take this and heat the heck out of it so that we can go ahead and cut it open and get the pieces that we need out of it. I've got my heat gun all ready to go. I think I've mentioned how much I like this in the past. One of the reasons why, if I hadn't said anything, is it doesn't just rest on its tip. It's got little bumpers in the side. The original one that I bought didn't have that, so that's a big plus. Not only is it nice and stable here, but it's also, if it happens to fall on its side, not going to burn a hole in the table. Always a plus. So let's crank up the heat and get cooking. On smaller pieces like this, I do like to heat them passively. You can just set this down and just rotate this every minute or two or every few seconds. You don't want to put it too close because it will burn. But if it's just sitting a few inches away, 3, 4, 5 inches away, the hot air will pass all over it and through it, and that's the important part. Take a look at that. See, it's already soft. At the ends, those soft spots will travel inwards from the ends towards the center. You can speed it up by moving if you like, but if you're careful, you can leave it like this. Again, make sure it's 5, 6 inches away, and you could even prop it up and just leave it like so. Still need a new glove. But do be careful with the temperature. As you see, it just started to color there. I don't recommend walking away. If you do, turn the heat setting down. You can turn it way down on something like this. You'll still get good results. And look at that, the whole thing completely soft. So let's just make sure. Because it has to stay soft for about a minute. We're going to go ahead and slice it open. I always like to cut on the side with a text because that provides a good benchmark, a little marker for you to cut across. Now we could just leave this thing whole, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try and make this as similar to the ones that I had created before as possible. So the way I made those was like this. That can just go aside. The strip is about, call it 4 inches. It's about 4.5, 5 inches. 2/3 and 1/3. Or ballpark. Not bad, right? Now, this is just going to go like that. If you had a little bit more, that would be okay too, and you could put it on top. And this is only if you don't want to increase the width. If you wanted to increase the width, use something like this and snap it on top. Oh, see, it's still nice and hot. Look at that, already done. You can snap this on top, and we're going to glue stuff like that in place. It's not going to stiffen the bow substantially in this case because it's, in fact, it would just pop right out probably. But the whole idea of this would be it makes the bow a little bit more substantial in the hand too, which is kind of nice. I find 1/2 inch pipe a little bit too narrow, but 3/4 inch pipe is okay, especially if the handle's built. 1 inch pipe to me feels almost ideal, just pretty perfect. But let's stick with this for now. Let's just say that this is basically the right shape and size that we're going for. So let's go ahead and build it up. That's it right now. I have here my hot glue gun. And I'm just gonna cover the bottom of the large piece with hot glue. I always use the low melt hot glue. You could use high melt, use whatever you like, but putting it right in the center, pushing down. Okay. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Don't worry if it's not completely in contact. Don't worry about it. All of these little things can come out in the wash. Now, if I'm doing this for a bow that I really want to be nice or that I'm putting a lot of work into, I usually go out and I sand this down and I make them nice and smooth. But again, we can compensate in other ways. We don't necessarily need to do it that way. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of glue around the edge. Don't worry, we're going to add plenty more later. There we go. Just in time for another glue stick. If you use a wet finger, the glue doesn't stick and you can basically shape it. But you want to keep on wetting your finger, otherwise you'll find out that it'll start sticking eventually. But that's about it. Next, take the hot glue gun, which I may need to plug back in, and do the same thing with the next smaller piece. Exactly the same thing. Okay? I like going back and forth to stretch out the little strand that's left, and that also sticks the strand, pulls it thinner. Eventually it hardens and you can just pop it right off. Look at that. There you go. So you see what we're getting at. It's kind of like building a cake. Layer cake, right? Who doesn't like cake? Each layer gets smaller. One more layer of a third the size of this second layer would be just perfect. But that's okay. You can get by just using glue alone if you're careful. So let's plug that back in. And let's go and add a little bit more glue around the edges. Forgive me, I'm going to move the camera and the workstation a little closer so I can leave it plugged in as I'm working on it. Okay. So now don't be shy. You're going to want to use a good stick or two, at least. You can use quite a lot of hot glue here. You're going to be using so much hot glue that the glue isn't going to set very quickly. When you have such a large thermal mass, it's going to stay pretty warm, and you'll be able to shape it, at least molding it a little bit gently, for a little bit of time, which is great, because we need that advantage here. If you need to heat the glue again, don't worry. We have this cool thing called a heat gun. You can melt this stuff darn quick. So if you find it setting, or if you find the hot glue gun isn't putting out perfectly hot melted glue, don't worry about it. Just try and get out what you can. Okay, so I've gone around all the base there. Now let me go around the second layer, and then I'll show you what I do to sort of finish it off, get it into a basically finished state. Okay. So now everything is very solidly glued on. Doesn't look very nice though. So let's try this. I'm just going to go like that, back and forth while pushing to fill in any voids. Just working slowly from one side to the other. And again, due to the amount of hot glue you're putting out here,
it's going to stay pretty warm. So even in a few seconds, we'll be able to go and pat it down and smooth it out. So don't worry too much about how perfect and smooth it is. If you need to reheat it, you can do that. But now with a wet finger, just go and pack it a little bit. Okay, you see, it becomes a little bit smoother and nice. And you can just go and you can keep on changing and shaping and adding more if you find there are voids, holes, until you've done that around the whole thing. It helps if you keep a little glass of water just around. You can just dip a finger in. I find cold water best, but any will do. There we go. So a little mug like that. Okay. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more now to the other side. And you just keep on doing the same thing. All the corners you want filled up. All the holes you want filled in. You want it to be smooth and have a nice, elegant shape. Back and forth, fill, fill, fill. Okay, I'm running out of hot glue again, so time for that next stick. But in the meanwhile, why waste a good chance? Let's just go and look at that. Isn't that nice? Much better. It's not perfect, but again, you can keep on reheating it, and that's the idea. Let me get that third stick of hot glue in there. And we can start to build up the top a little bit. The front, the back, and the top. Okay, so now all of this area, we want it to be smooth. We don't want the layer cake showing through. We want the frosting, so to speak, to cover it up and mask the transition, make it a nice gradual transition. So there you go, look at that. Again, smoothing. Looks good. Let's do the same thing on the other side. You see what I'm doing? I'm filling in the gap and then I'm spreading it out back and forth. Same thing here, filling and then spreading. Okay, that's plenty of hot glue. Let's awesome. Now see, take a look at that from the side. Nice, smooth transitions. Again, to get it perfect, reheat it, re-smooth, do all those same procedures, but again and again until you're satisfied with them. Something I've done that works, you can go ahead and take saran wrap and put it on it, and smooth it through the saran wrap. That'll both protect you from the heat, and then the saran wrap will stick to it. You can peel most of it off, but it'll provide a little bit of extra protection. That works just fine. Do whatever. I mean, just find a technique that works for you. Now we're building up the top. Because again, we want this to be a bulge, so can't have it flat on top per se. It needs to be nice and convex. Which you can see starting to come, even without any manual padding or shaping. We're still going to get that nice bulge in the center that we're looking for on a Turkish-style Qabza, the grip. I'm just going to keep on pumping it out until, basically until I'm done. You can build up the sides in the same way. And again, if it feels like it's getting too firm, just go and do this. I'll show you. Take your heat gun, and you can heat it up. I would turn the heat down a little bit. You don't need it to be on full blast. Okay. Same as before. Shaping gently at first, and then you can be a little bit more insistent and mold it a little more once you've cooled it off a tiny bit. Okay. This is not perfect. It doesn't feel really smooth, but with the addition of another layer, another course of glue, and another course of smoothing, like all these little bumps, we can get most of them to go away almost completely. I can show you just the smoothing of the side. That'll be a good demo. And then we'll be really done, and you can just take this and run with it. Do whatever you want. Okay. Okay, that should all be hot and melted now. Take your thumb and just roll. Roll, roll. Okay, got this side more than that side. You see how it's becoming very thin? It's even almost peeling a little bit. If that happened, that's fine. One final blast with the heat gun will melt it and it'll re-adhere. One thing of note is that it's really hard to see. It's really hard to see any imperfections because this is transparent. You can get colored hot glue. That can make it easier. Also, something you can try is just looking at it from an angle, and sometimes the light will allow you to see it, or just feel. You can feel where the bumps and holes are. Then you can take your hot glue gun and you can try and fill those voids. So, just like so. I see a void there. You just put a dollop of hot glue on, and then, same as before, dip the finger and just push it in. Nice. And so with a little bit of work like that, you'll eventually get something that's nice and smooth and even. I've even heated these after applying leather. One that I wasn't too satisfied with was a little bit rough, and all of the imperfections show through the leather. But then I just gently heated it, not so hot that the leather starts smoking. Be careful, it's pleather. It's the same as the PVC pipe. It will eventually degas, or outgas nasty decompositions, molecules and chlorine and things like that. But I heated it just so that I could smooth it with a thumb like that, and it worked perfectly. Much easier to fix it at this point, though. So right now we have a lovely feeling grip. Even like this. This is fantastic. It's a nice technique. Hot glue is cheap. For me, it's about 5 cents a stick, or maybe a little bit less. So for well under $1, you can make a very nice, comfortable, and it's due to its slight flexibility, it's almost cushiony. It's a nice surface. Other materials like epoxy putty probably are a little bit more authentic feeling. They're a little bit more firm. I have nothing against those. If you have it and you have enough money, that you're comfortable doing that, that's fine. I find this to be much more affordable, and the results aren't dramatically inferior. So do whatever feels good, do whatever you have the time. And there it is. I'm fairly happy with that. There's still some smoothing that could be done. There's still some extra work that could be done. And as you can tell, I've already went ahead and assembled this into a finished bow. I will show that to you another time. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you have similar success. I'm very pleased with this style. Again, you can tell it is bumpy and imperfect, but you can both cut away pieces that you don't like or heat it up and remove pieces that you don't like. So it feels much better in the hand than a naked half-inch pipe. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you guys again soon.